we live? 3, 2, 1.
There you go.
Normally Colleen does this big thing. 3, 2, 1, live!
Oh yeah,
Nothing.
Very dramatic.
Hi.
We're drama over here. Lumineers, look at Sigrira! Yay! If Maitland were in my body right now, she would just be beyond belief. That would be a great... I would love to have Sigrira back several times, and I'm going to beg her after this. But how great would it be to have Maitland and you do a show?
That would be so much fun.
I mean,
I would love that.
All about the animals, so is Maitland.
Yay.
Deal? Let's do it.
Deal.
Done. We're going to do that for you guys.
That
And then
sounds
maybe
good.
then we can do kind of more personal
Yeah.
questions and so forth.
That sounds good.
That'd be amazing. Today we're going to talk about wholeness living with your animals. But before we do that, I have some housekeeping notes, of course. We got some classes, guys. The intermediate mediumship class is online through Learn It Live, November 11th and 18th. So come join, get your little swag bag. I love teaching this. If you missed the basic, we have it again in January, the basic mediumship class, and that's January 13th and 20th. Those are all Friday classes. And again, I do a little gift bag and ship it out to you. Then we'll have another intermediate class on February and March. And then the big one is the advanced mediumship course, and that's going to be the weekend of March 24th through the 26th, and that's here in Atlanta. So put it on your calendar, come out and come play with us. And beyond that, we have Sigrira doing a free give back to the community. Well, it's $5 to reserve your seat. It's through our institute, the Love and Light Institute. You can find that in the loveandlightinstitute.org. But Sigrira is going to come and start talking about how to communicate.
Introduction to animal communication. So how to get started with your own animals.
It's wonderful. And I will delay you no further. Sigrira is here. Wholeness living right now. So for me, wholeness living is mind, body, emotion, soul. What is it to you?
I think it is exactly the same for animals.
Yeah?
So I think they're completely equal, as you know. And there are species differences, but they, in my opinion, starting with mind, animal intelligence is in no way inferior to our own. It's different from what humans consider intelligence. So they won't be doing necessarily math problems or, writing a thesis or something like that.
I can see it in my head when you're like, not inferior. I'm like, of course, because in many ways I think they're more tuned in than we are. Intellectually.
They can't, yeah, absolutely. And they just can't do the things that we humans define as markers of intelligence. And for that matter, some humans can't do that either, and that doesn't mean that their minds are inferior either. So that's important to keep in mind. I mean, certain things they can do, like readings, they can read scents in the wind the way we read a newspaper. That's not something we can do. They can, there's just so much that they can calculate jumping the way, what would be the equivalent of like a 15-story jump for us. They can do so many different things that we can't do, and it doesn't affect their intelligence.
Having a slight fear of heights, I'm glad I don't have to calculate a 15-story jump. My heart is like, ugh.
And then the other thing with their mind, I think it's really important to remember that animals can feel boredom just like humans can. And it's really important when for your companion animal that you help them have their mind to be stimulated and challenged and entertained.
Dude, I swear to you, 2 weeks ago, Rui sent me a text, and it was our cat, Aloha, had come into the kitchen and just sat down and did a stare down with Rui. And Rui was texting me, my husband, he's like, kind of freaked out. He's like, what do you think's happening? The cat would not budge, not blink, nothing. It was just this deadpan stare. And I was like, maybe she's bored?
They do. They get bored. And it's so important. I mean, there's something called environmental enrichment. And this is actually a big keyword. I didn't make it up. It's a big keyword, especially, zoos use this a lot. Any animal that's captive.
Oh my God, I just had an image that when we have domesticated animals in our house, we are their zoo land, aren't we?
We provide their environment. We are, our home is their space. So they're kind of, in a way, captive in our home.
They're living in a human
it doesn't have to be in
environment.
a negative way, but it's up to us to make it positive. And especially if you have animals that are in cages, if you have like birds, parrots, guinea pigs, rats, any kind of small animal that's in a cage, they completely depend on you to create these things for them so that they have the mental stimulation they need. You have to take them out, every single day.
I actually had little tiny hamsters,
Mm-hmm.
and they were super small, Ginger and Marianne. And wherever you are, I love you and miss you dearly. But I would look forward to every week reorganizing their trails and
yeah.
creating problems for them to
Exactly.
solve. It was more fun for me. And then we would sit there like it was TV and see if they were going to figure out how to get to where they
Yeah.
used to love to be because I rearranged it. And I often thought, am I being mean to them?
No, that's a great way to do
changing.
it because they need challenges. Just like imagine a person sitting in a little, cage. They
So they'll
need something to do.
appreciate it.
They absolutely will appreciate
That
it.
makes, I feel a little bit better.
And
to
it
Ginger
also
Marianne.
it also matters for dogs and cats and other animals. Like cats, there's all these great new ways that you can hide treats and toys that they have to kind of like struggle to get
Some
them out.
really
for fun.
cool things out there, aren't there?
Yeah, and dogs, you can create things in your backyard so they can have like little pools or places to dig that are just for them, and just you want to look it up according to their species. There might be certain things that are going to be more appealing to them, but it's really important to provide and enrich their environment.
That is so cool. I was just thinking, what would my diluted torty cat Aloha want? Because I tell you, she could deadpan stare through your soul.
I love
I'm
how
gonna
cats can
post
do
the
that.
picture. You'll laugh so hard. And she needs her own blog of just staring you down. Maybe I need to get her a
That's
mirror.
great.
Think she'd want to look at herself?
You could try. Why not? Jamie, you're getting a lot of compliments on your purple hair.
Oh, you like
It
my
is
purple?
really pretty. It is really pretty. I love it.
My daughter went and got purple hair, so we did it together. I tried to hide it up underneath. That's so funny, you guys can see that. I don't think about it anymore. Yay! So we have the wholeness part, the mind aspect, the intelligence, the environment, stimulation, keeping them problem solving and alert and aware.
Yeah, absolutely. All the similar things to what you would imagine, that we need. Think about, what you need in terms of being entertained.
This is kind of why there's a big movement of like doggy daycares and stuff where people are taking their animal and dropping them off.
Absolutely, I think so, because it's really hard for animals to be alone all day because we have all these other things going on in our lives. We go to work, we have friends, we have things outside, but they're basically just home and waiting. We're the highlight of their day. They're waiting for us to come home.
Adopt in pairs. Adopt in pairs, and then see
Definitely.
what they can get up to.
Having multiple, pairs or siblings, multiple animals helps, and then anything you can do to make it less lonely for them, even if there are several of them. There's like great music now for cats and dogs. You can get music, you can leave the TV on. There's different little things, depending on what they like, that you can do too.
Do you know, sometimes I have that Nest camera. Sometimes I'll call in if I see my cat in the living room because I'm watching the camera from the office, and I'll be like, hey, kitty, 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 kitty. And the cat goes and looks around for, where is she? Where is she? And I'm like,
I recently heard about this device that's kind of like that, where you can see them, but you can also dispense a treat.
What?
Like you can do something
You
that
interact with them?
You interact with them, so they hear you, and then you can actually make a treat drop.
It's
So-
actually like a video.
Yeah, I don't
They
remember
can
what it's
see
called,
you, and
but
then the treat drops.
Really? Oh, somebody's going to have
That's
some
kinda
fun
fun.
later on
Somebody's on the
finding that
computer
on
right now.
internet. Yep. Do they sell that on Amazon? Amazon, I love you. All right, so we've covered mind. What about emotion?
So emotion, I think I had my body. Emotion, I think, is one of the most important ones that I think gets underestimated, undervalued in animals. People don't always understand how deep their emotions run. Animals, they need to be loved. They need to trust their person. They need to be able to connect emotionally with you. I think that's so key. That's, we think about taking care of their body, I think that's like a given that I think most of us think about, but their emotions, the emotional connection is what's going to allow you to communicate with them. That's where it starts.
But we're so good at reading people's faces, and people are good at saying, "Hey, I'm pissed," or "I'm sad today," or "I'm happy." How are we doing that with our animals, Sigrira? How read Aloha's deadpan face. Tell me, what emotion is that? I don't know how to connect to that.
That's where the heart-to-heart connection comes in, because as you're connecting to their emotions, you're going to start feeling, they're going to transmit their feelings to you.
Tell us more. How do we do the heart-to-heart connection?
So the heart-to-heart connection is basically just comes from a place of love. You connect, the light in your heart and see it as going directly to theirs, and allow what comes through to come through, even if it seems silly at first. Just as she's staring at you with this deadpan face, what do you feel?
I feel like laughing is actually what I feel like doing.
Maybe she's trying to tell you that you need a little bit more humor or joy in your life.
That's probably true right now. Actually, it's really true right now.
So, they do, even if she's expressing it in a funny way, if she's making you laugh, that could be part of how she's taking care of you. Maybe that's what it needs to be. There isn't always like a super deep message.
It's funny because when I go to take one step close to her after she's just staring me down, she flops over and goes belly up. Boom. She hits the floor and puts her legs up in the air. Air. And I so wish I could train the kitty, like do the bang bang, and the cat pretends it's dead. But she wants to be pet. It's pretty funny.
Oh, you could do kind of like a Halloween video where they do the whole rollover.
In all my free time. That would be really cute, though.
That would be cute.
Happy Halloween, guys. That's coming up.
Yes.
That's my favorite holiday.
But the main thing about emotion is I want to just reiterate. I think most of us already kind of feel this on some level, but animals are capable of feeling all the same emotions that we are. They can feel great joy, they can feel happiness, peace, but they can also feel, sadness and boredom and fear and anger if they're threatened. They feel the range of emotions that we do. So that's something to always keep in mind, and it's important to honor them as equals.
When you talked about heart-to-heart connection, can we do that when we're at work and our animals are at home? Do we have to be in the same, do we need to be front?
No, distance doesn't matter. And that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a great way to stay connected throughout the day. If you're not with them, or even if you're traveling, anytime I travel at night, I always connect with them before I go to bed, because we're used to normally going to bed together. So it's it's such a nice way to be check in with them and, feel if they're okay. And it makes me feel better.
That's fun. I do that too. But I actually talk to my kids because we have the English language in common about being connected heart to heart. Maybe I should also be talking to my pets about the technique or what I'm doing with them when I'm away as well.
I think that would be a great way to do it. Yeah, they're very receptive to it, and they love it. They want to have that that ongoing connection with you. And I think it's important to always acknowledge them, thank them for everything that they do, and for just their wonderful energetic connection that we have with them.
Everything that they get into.
Well, when a lot of those types of things do have to do. Sometimes they're trying to tell you something, and we've talked about mirroring in the past, and what that means is basically when an animal is doing something maybe a little bit out of the ordinary to try to show you something. Maybe sometimes it manifests physically, but sometimes it's just a behavior. Maybe they're going to the bathroom on the bed, or maybe they're chewing on your shoes, and it's, if it's a puppy, it could be teething, but if it's an older animal and it's not something they normally do, maybe they're trying to draw your attention to something going on in your life.
That is very true. And that's why Sigrira is so great to work with. She actually does private consultations. And when you're having issues of this nature and you can't figure it out with your pet, Sigrira can translate what your pet is going through. Because I had a kitty cat who was peeing, going to all the litter boxes that I had in the house and peeing right outside of them and not getting in it. And it was frustrating as all get out. Sigrira was like, listen, your cat is showing me this, that, and that. Are these things that you can fix? And I was like, yes, I can fix those things. Okay, now she wants this, that, and that. It's kind of like a wish list.
She had a list. She had a kind of a big list.
My cat Panda. And I was like, well, I think I can. I'll try. And so I worked on it. Guess what? No more pee-peeing anywhere. We never, ever, and we haven't yet cleaned up a pee-pee mess from
That's
that
so
cat.
great. I'm glad.
It was incredible. Instead of being angry and taking the time and researching chemicals on how to get urine out of whatever it was.
Yeah, and you never, along the lines of, being angry, you never want to yell, like you never want to do anything to intentionally startle or frighten your animals, like yelling at them loudly, or even like some people do the water spray thing. Any of these things will actually make your animal afraid of you. So the best thing is to really understand where it's coming from, because there is a reason. There's always a reason, just like with people. And it may be a multi-level reason. It could be, of course you want to eliminate the medical possibility, but once you know that's not it, then there could be other things going on with them, either with them personally or something they're showing to you. Not you, Jamie, but you in general.
You in general, but can you see my guilty face? So I wanted to ask you, is using those little censored air sprayers, is that appropriate for animals? Like if you don't want them to go into a certain room or be on top of the table, or like we've even used them for the raccoons. I live in downtown, like midtown Atlanta, but we have raccoons and they share the cat food. And so we've been trying to get them to maybe not be so friendly. Which is, it's not really my need.
Yeah.
But
is it something that you're doing, or something that
it's
kind of
an
just
air
happens?
can
But you're
that has a
personally
sensor.
doing it, or is it just sitting there?
No, it sits there. It has a battery, and so when you walk by it, it goes psst, and it sprays air.
Okay.
And so it shoos them away from being in the vicinity to promote safety, because it's wildlife.
Yeah, well, I think of course you always have to account for safety, and I think that's okay if you're keeping them out of harm's way. And air is not a particularly frightening thing. I think if it was like a really loud sound and it made them like jump up in the air or something, that's something you'd want to avoid.
Well, it does scare them tremendously.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yes, because they're not expecting it. It just looks like a can.
Is it like the air that you get blown in your eyes at the eye doctor?
Yes.
Yeah.
It sprays them, and
That's what I'm
they
picturing.
freak out and they leave, and it's like, oh.
There may be. I think there may be other ways that it could be approached too.
I'd love to talk about that more.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give me some tips.
I think
after
sometimes
this.
with communication, sometimes you can get around some of those things. And I do, of course, safety it comes first. But at the same time, sometimes with communication, you can make certain compromises where they might agree to not go to certain areas or
with
do
the
certain
wildlife?
things. Yes, even with the wildlife.
Like even with deer eating your garden and things of that nature?
Absolutely. And again, it's compromise. There may be something that you do for the deer. Maybe you plant a separate garden for them, and then they stay out of your veggie garden. And so there's ways you can do that.
Half my human mind right now is going, no way is that deer ever going to learn that one's yours, this one's mine. That deer is like, damn, baby, you planted me 2 gardens. I'm so excited. Right?
Our garden is living
My
proof.
friends.
I'm going to buy my friends. There's more here than I need.
We do it in our garden.
Really?
We feed them, so they have their own food, and they do not touch our tomatoes. Our neighbors can vouch for this.
Okay. I want to learn more about this, because I
it's
do
all-
believe anything is possible, but I think it's just all that human training and storytelling that I'm like,
It's all about respecting them and communicating with them, and understanding that you can't just say don't do this. You have to communicate with them and ask them. And then maybe have something else in return, because they do have to eat. So offer them something in return. Maybe feed them separately.
I love that. So we talked a bit about mind, emotion, body.
Body. So body, I think, is the one that that we probably automatically assume we have to take care of their body. I hope that that's something that most of us assume. So obviously, their body needs to be taken care of. We have to provide healthy food, healthy exercise, home. Regular checkups from a veterinarian, medical care. I think medical care, one thing I want to point out is it can get expensive. And I see I think that's something that needs to be considered before you consider adopting.
Yeah.
So and start saving.
Yeah, and they have all these great insurance programs now. I think the national average for insurance monthly for a dog is $32 and for a cat is $22. And like nationwide has coverage. True Plan, there's great programs out there. So if you feel like you can't save tremendously, but you can save $22 a month on top of food and
Yeah, find a way to plan for that because they're family, and you would never consider not taking care medically of our human children or our other family members. So I think it's part of it. So I think that's the part that maybe sometimes in the beginning we get excited about adopting a puppy or a young animal, and we don't consider some of the costs that may be involved later on. Teeth maintenance is really important. Brush if you can brush if they let you, or otherwise getting cleanings.
do you mean with cats as well?
Yes, and it doesn't mean that they all are going to let you. You may have to professionally get cleanings, but
my cats are checking out on that one.
mine are not very very keen on it
Have
either.
you seen that Aura Pup tongue cleaner?
No,
Holy goodness, it's the cutest thing ever, and there's tons of videos on it. You can watch it. The Aura Pup, it's made out of the same scrub that surgeons use to scrub their hands so that they're surgically clean, and they put like this gravy thing that promotes
Oh wow.
antibacterial, it cleans the tongue, gets the bacteria out, and it's tartar control. And they put it on the little scrub, and the dogs lick it off, the cats lick it off. So it's scraping and cleaning the tongue, and it
Oh,
promotes
wow.
good mouth care.
That sounds really
Isn't that
cool.
crazy?
Oh my gosh.
Oh god, you got it. It's so cute. You're like, oh, look at that dog do it. It's just people sitting there holding it, but it's adorable.
I love that.
Do you have one?
I don't have one for the kitties, but our neighbors have them for the dogs.
Oh, I want to check that out. Cool.
Because they also talk about brushing the dog's tongue, and
Yeah.
that's just, to me, I think that sounds hysterical. You're like, stick your tongue out, honey. The dog's not gonna do
They're just gonna be like, okay.
it. So
That's funny.
it was a great option.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So
And,
physical health
Yeah,
care.
grooming, taking care. And some animals need more grooming than others, depending on their length of hair or, the type of species they are. I think energy healing is a wonderful thing to do for animals. And that also helps their other, their mind and their soul and their emotions. So energy healing is fantastic. Most of them love it. Things like Reiki or pranic healing or anything like that. Massage, affection, always, show them affection. The one thing that I want to really point out around the body that I think we may not always think about is the idea of body language and reading their body language.
Oh, yes.
Because since we don't traditionally communicate telepathically with them the way I've learned to do, and many of us are learning to do, but we're not starting out that way, pay attention to their body language because they're very expressive and they will sort of tell you when they're reaching certain limits. I think a good example would be maybe with larger dogs, and you have a small child that may not be able to read their body language and maybe is trying to come at them from behind or hug them, and they're feeling like threatened maybe a little bit because it's something coming from behind, so, and they might be like expressing that maybe with their ears back or in the different ways that they do. So I think it's important to teach young children to respect the space of the animal, and for us as adults to respect their space too.
I've also heard with dogs, if you come at them with palms up, it's more threatening than palms down.
Right. So read up. I think a lot of the things. I think that makes sense because it could be seen as a threat from above rather than from below, and there are a lot of species-specific kind of things, and I think it's good to read up on those, on some of the traditional training in a way, because it alerts us to certain body language.
I'm going to say even my fish, I have 4 glow tetras at home. They don't like when I approach the tank in a certain way. They'll run and hide. But if I come at them from the far right and I come up, they're like, hey, mama, you got some food? They like come to the glass and they look and observe. I'm like, I'm the same person on either side.
But think about it. A lot of times when you're dealing with prey animals, like even horses are considered prey animals technically. So they are always on the alert, and that's why sometimes they wear those goggle things, because things will make them nervous coming from the side. And they're such gentle, creatures, but they're traditional traditionally prey animals, so that they have that mentality.
I think it made me nervous not being able to
Yeah.
see what's coming up on this side.
So
I would walk around constantly swinging.
So that goes along with like the instinct thing. But before I talk about instinct, I just want to say one more thing about body language. I think it's really important to respect their space and to remember that it's their body. I think especially with small dogs and tiny ones, sometimes we want to carry them around as babies or, and just grab them and I think.
Or dress them.
Yeah, and I think, I think if they enjoy it, that's perfect. That's totally fine. Some animals want nothing more than to be carried around all day long and be right up against their person. But if they don't like it, don't pick them up against their will. Don't, so I think that's important to just, they'll let you know. Pay attention to their body language as it's happening.
Respect.
And then, yeah, exactly. Respect their space and it's their body. So.
Do it. One more. The soul.
So, can we talk about instincts before we get to soul?
Okay, yeah.
Super quick. Instinct. I just wanted to say with instincts, sometimes this kind of goes between mind and body a little bit, but a lot of times people ask me why, if an animal is completely aware of what's going on and what they're doing, why can't they stop this behavior? And it's because they have instincts, like just like we do, and it's sort of like you mentioned, you had a fear of heights.
Yeah.
And a lot. That's a common one. Not to pick on you, but it's a common one. And we all have different things that maybe make us nervous, and that's an instinct. Or if you have ever been like driving and suddenly you get in a near crash, you don't actually crash, but like something just cuts you off, and you're like, and your heart's racing. Like that's something that you can't control. You're just gonna feel that way because of the situation. And animals also have that. Sometimes with territorial instincts, or if you try to like have a kitty cat join a household where there's another one, they might feel like there's like we would feel if we walked in and there was an intruder sitting on the couch eating our food. Like that's what it feels like to them. Like think of how scared you would feel. So
That's such an awesome visual.
So that's the type of things that we want to, even if they understand on some level, on their higher self knows, this is what's going on, they're still going to need some time to process and physically adjust to situations. So that's the
Is that
instinct.
what it's like if, we have a baby and we bring him home from the hospital?
It's a little bit different because the baby, I've been told, at least by some dogs, that the babies smell like family. So they can kind of sense that they're part of the family unit, so it's not as alarming, but it can be, it's definitely a big change, and it's something that we need to take into consideration our animals' emotions and feelings and not make them feel left out because there's another family member there.
I loved hearing that some people are bringing home the little baby hoodies from the hospital, or the blankets that they're wrapped in,
For the smell.
and bringing them outside the front door so that the animals can come to the front door and smell it.
I love that.
And then once it's smelled, then you bring the blanket, a little item inside, and you keep it inside on the floor, and so that they get used to it. And then you gradually move it close to their bedding, to where
I
the
love
animals
that.
are nesting and sleeping with the smell, so that when the baby
Yeah.
comes home, it's a nice transition.
I love that. That's very similar to when you introduce a new cat to the household, where you keep them
Never thought about
separately,
that. You
and
could
then
do the same thing.
Yeah, that's traditionally how, and you bring over like the toys to the blankets, and it's like a process where you gradually do that until they come together.
Oh, I like that.
It's really that's a great way to do it. So the soul, animals have a soul. I think this is, of course. I really can't imagine anybody doubting this, but they have a soul. They have a soul path. They have a purpose, just like we do. In terms of the soul, there really just aren't any differences. They could be affected by their past lives just as people can. Part of their purpose could be to help their person. And then they have their own purpose. They have their own things that they're here to experience and to work out. I call them starlight animals. Certain animals may not have experienced many lifetimes on Earth before, and sometimes they can be a little bit more sensitive, so they might need a little extra care in the sensitivity department, just like some, children are special, they need a little extra care. They're very wise, and they come in kind of as teacher souls.
I got a few of those. I've had a few. I've got one right now. Yes.
And just to address some other common questions that I get, they are able to reincarnate as any. A dog can come back as a human baby. Your horse may have been your brother in a past life. I mean, they can. There is no difference. There's no hierarchy. There's no difference between species. So reincarnation can happen freely between them.
I like highlighting that there's no hierarchy between species.
Yes.
And I've heard in several readings with people that their baby that's come in was also their beloved dog through college that was
That's so
prepping
sweet.
them and being with them.
Aw.
And then so many great stories of the dog that passed away came back as another dog in the family. Same characteristics, same habits, same problems, same everything. Sleeps the same way, wants to be in the same spot in the bed, like crazy identical.
It's amazing. Yeah, I love that.
This is real. This happens. This is real.
So, and this, not to get too far off topic, but trees also. I mean, all beings, obviously. There's no hierarchy.
Right, all
but-
beings that have soul or energy and then that sustain life are equal.
And
Amazing
this
thing.
applies to wild animals. This applies to insects. All of the above. So, just moving on.
Are you sure about spiders? Are they? Oh.
Yes, spiders too, and snakes and rats and all the creatures.
I can love
And-
those
and
things. I don't know
cockroaches.
why.
Spiders.
But and they do have spiritual lives. They can astral travel. They can they dream and have interdimensional dreams and experiences. They can have contracts or agreements with their people and with each other. I'm trying to think what else I was thinking about. They basically comes down to they choose coming in, and they choose their body that they come into and their situation just like we do. And yeah. I guess.
So we've covered all the 4 parts of wholeness living: mind, body, emotion, and soul. So now we kind of want to hear from you.
Yes.
What's going on with you? Colleen Ziegler in the house, people. On the computer.
You can't see me, but whoa. I'm
She's doing this.
raising the roof.
Racing.
Can't remember what it was. Okay, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
One that came through was, do animals leave their body while they're here? And I think you briefly covered the astral traveling and all that. And I'm just going to add to that question, do they have an easier time leaving the body
Okay.
than people do?
You mean
does
when-
it come easier to them?
When they're getting ready to transition, like to cross over, is that what you mean? Or in
She
general?
knows this stuff. I have to talk to dead people about it.
I wasn't even thinking necessarily during transition.
Okay.
I'm thinking like, I have a dog who I think kind of
Yeah,
lives
they
on both
can.
sides. Yeah.
They can. It depends. They come in with sort of, even though they're generally more aware than humans, they do come in with varying degrees of how much of a spiritual life they want to have. Like sometimes the dog comes in and he's like, I really want to just like dig in the dirt and be really dog, and
Oh, so is this like the level of amnesia?
kind of.
Like-
Yeah,
like
exactly.
when
Exactly.
We come in, they have the same
Exactly.
kind of choices?
That's why some dogs may seem more dog to people, and some of them
Yes.
seem more like Zen masters, or
That's why I'm like, you
Yes.
got a dog.
Yeah.
You got a person dog.
Yeah.
You got a,
Yeah.
like, I have different strange labels, but I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
it.
I think that's how you explain it with the amnesia thing, like how much they remember, how awake they are, how
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's the same set of agreements for them.
Exactly. So the ones that I think are a little bit more, I guess have less amnesia, they may be doing it consciously, and then the ones that have more, maybe it would be more like in dreams or something like that. But they are able to do it, and when they're getting ready to cross, I have heard from certain animals that especially when they have pain in their body, like if it's an illness and they're close, sometimes they will leave for periods of time and, just to kind of get through it that way and come back.
All right, it's
Good
very
question.
similar to people.
Shannon Johnson says when she goes to the grocery store, she tells her dogs, 4 Goldens and her cat, that she's going and how long she's going to be gone. She sends them lots of visuals of them coming back with the sun in a different position. Are visuals better avenue to send to your pets?
Oh, Shannon, hi. That's a great question. And I love that she tells them. That's so perfect. She
I know,
tells
with the
them.
sun position and
I've
everything.
never heard of that.
You
That
know
is
what?
brilliant.
I actually,
Brilliant.
I love that. I used to do that when I went on vacation with Juno and Jarvis. And I don't know how I visualize this, but I would kind of imagine the sun coming up and then going down for each amount of days. Because that's how I lead it. That was like my way of kind of telling them this is a whole day. I don't know if there is a better way, but I think that's a great way. I think there's however if visualization comes naturally to her, I think that's a great way. And then
Oh,
for
so
peop-
it's like working with her strengths.
yes,
So if she's very good at visualization, then that's going to be the most accurate way to communicate.
Exactly, I think
but if
so,
she
yeah.
was better at
if she wasn't so visual and maybe just thought more
emotion?
more emotions, it would be kind of like, how does it feel, when I like send them an emotion of when, how it feels when they reunite, and maybe combine that with something else, or maybe telling them, in this amount of time, and then give the feeling of that reunion.
Nice.
Love it.
That's great.
So Diana Talwar, and I think we kind of covered this in the episode we recorded before this one.
Hi.
But
I know
do you
her.
have any tips to learn animal communication for someone that doesn't have any experience? And I think she's looking to just communicate with the animals in her home.
Okay, yes, and I know
Any
her,
books?
and hello to Snow White. I actually, on my website, I have a list of books. It'd probably be easier to send the link than
Sure.
to go through all of them by several different animal communicators.
And that's at Sigrira.com.
And
Resources.
thank you. And but just to start off with, I feel like if you just if you bring your consciousness to your heart and start from there. I think the important thing is to not do it strictly from the mind.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. When you say your consciousness, how do you define that for you? Just so we know where you're coming from.
If we mostly feel like we're kind of up here normally,
So it's your thinking voice, your
Maybe.
processing voice kind of a thing?
maybe, yeah, and
So it's bringing it down to
bringing
heart?
it down to the heart, and then sort of almost feeling it there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with
And
you.
and then connecting that, trying to connect from that level to your animal's heart center, and sort of allowing that space for anything that comes through. That's a good place to start, and then go from there.
If we're a visual learner, are there techniques that you can see how the energy is moving, or do you use any visualization to make that connection?
Visually, yes. I'm pretty visual, and I sort of see it as a stream of light that goes directly to the animal's heart. And it actually doesn't matter if they're in front of you, or if they are on the other side, if they're in spirit, or if they're in a different country. It's the same way. And then for me, I do Reiki for animals. So when I'm doing energy healing, that also I feel enhances the connection. So I always do energy healing for the animals when I'm communicating with them too.
Oh, I love Reiki. What if you were not visual, but more audio or just kinetic? Do you have any tips on how to make that connection?
If sort of more of like physical, is that what you mean? Like if that's, I think, I'm trying to think. I don't
holding the collar or a toy, or
You mean if they weren't there with you? Yeah, I think that would be. I think that's how a lot of people do it. I don't have as much experience with it, but holding something that's theirs, I think the energetic imprint would probably be
yes,
be
it
there.
would still be there. So
You know
you
a lot
could
about the energetic
make a
imprints.
connection
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of other ways of making or building that connection that you can do so easily for us that maybe haven't done it so much. Like see if there were other ways. She is having a give back on the 10th, November 10th, here in Atlanta at the Love and Light Institute. I point behind the camera because it's just right over there, and she's going to talk about communication, like the basics or the beginners communication to animals.
Yes.
So hopefully maybe she'll start putting more out there for us. Send us your comments. Let us know what you're looking for, because she's here and she can do it.
Thank you.
So I have a question from Laura M. I can't do his last name. Beratik Drahos? I think that's right. Do animals return to your family reborn in a new body?
I think they often do. Yes, not always. And that's one of the things that I get asked about a lot. In sessions, I will ask the animals on behalf of their family whether they plan to return. And they're usually pretty clear about whether they're going to or not. A lot of times they do want to return. The time frame varies. Sometimes they come back fairly quickly. Sometimes it might be a few years. They don't always tell me an exact timeline, but they do indicate, whether they will or not. And then sometimes they choose to stay in spirit because they actually feel like they can help their person better from that perspective. That's something that happened that I've gotten a lot too, where they're like, I can do more for my, my mom or my person, from as a spirit guide in a way.
Do they ever tell you what they want to come back as?
Sometimes, yeah. So a lot of times they'll be in the same type of body, like they might come back as a cat, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes, like we talked about earlier, they might come back as a human, or they might a human child, or as a different type of animal. So that happens too.
I remember one reading where the dog said clearly, I want to come back as a cat. And, I remember thinking, oh my, I hope that's okay. But the dog had seen how the cat was always on the furniture, the cat was always on the lap, the cat was pampered. And the dog was like, I'm ready for some of that in this family, so I'm going to come back as a cat. It was really funny.
Or a smaller dog.
Or a smaller dog, yeah, but I guess didn't see that option happening.
I have right now I have a link, a post on my blog that was written by one of my clients who's a cat father who writes about this cat that came back to him, Brian. So if you check it out on my blog, it's Brian, a great example where it shows, he lists all these examples of how the kitty did these amazing things that were just like her predecessor did. Like
he's a wonderful writer, so
she knew where the treats were and everything. So check out his story. It's on my blog. It's like I think last week or 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
I have a question from Alexis Kissinger Rodriguez. And she asks, when choosing a new pet, whether from a pound, pet store, or breeder, how can we listen to the animals to know which one connects to our family the best?
That's a really good question, and
of them. All of them do. That's what I'm thinking. That's why I don't go to those places.
Okay, it's so hard.
I find myself there. I have to go eeny, meeny, miny. How?
Oh my gosh. This is a hard one because it's, you do kind of, when you see them, I want to take all of them home, but if you're feeling like they generally will kind of do something, like they may it's something that you feel more than you see, but they may look at you a certain way, or they may they tend to find you somehow. When we adopted Juno and Jarvis at the Tucson Humane Society many years ago, Juno actually stuck his paw out and grabbed me as I was walking by. And so that he literally reached out. That doesn't, always happen, but that
that could mean something.
I've heard of people sort of, just seeing a photo, from an adoption website and feeling a connection. So I think if you feel a connection, then let's follow that through. There isn't really like a right or wrong. It's more about like feeling it.
What about having other interspecies, like other cats and dogs at home, and you're going to adopt? You got that connection with the adoptee, yet you bring them home, and there isn't that connection between the others that you already.
I think before you even go to the adoption event, ask your current animals if they're okay with having an addition to the household, and and even if they do say it's okay, they're still going to need all the proper introductions.
It's great to even think about going to them first before you're going out to even look.
And sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes somebody might just show up at your door, and you kind of deal with the situation. Right. So but if you were intentionally going out to adopt, then it's great to ask them first.
That's really neat.
So Krista Kilgore is asking, why would a pet stay back instead of moving on?
Stay back. What do you mean by
I think that means instead of transitioning, why would they hang out for a while? Is how I'm reading it.
Okay, and that's a great question. And they actually do transition. It's just that they're in the light, but they're coming to visit. So they're not staying. Like you mean like as a ghost or something, maybe?
Yeah, I've actually in some sessions the dog was like, not leaving, not done.
Like they are,
and for the reason in the particular reading, like the dog had passed with a certain cancer, really specific, and the pet parent had the same cancer, and that dog wasn't going to leave that side until that cancer moment was over, because it was still doing his job.
Okay,
he was absorbing and helping the parent heal, and then when it was over, then the dog transitioned, and then of course came back and visited all the time, but. It
So
was
was
really
the dog
interesting.
alive? Is that what you're saying? I'm
No,
getting
the
a little confused
dog
with the wording.
died
It was
of the
kind of okay.
cancer.
So he was just kind of hanging out. Okay.
But did not cross over right away. Stayed
Okay.
put at the human side, would not leave until the
Wow.
cancer was gone.
Wow.
So I've seen that one example, but I don't, have many of those under my belt.
I have not. I haven't come across it personally with any of the ones that I've talked to, but that's a great example. Thank you.
Wow. Well,
My screen is frozen.
Colleen's screen is frozen.
If we have anything else.
It's
we
the
can
ghostesses.
talk about.
The veil is thin as Halloween is approaching.
I got questions.
She's got questions.
Thank you so much for your patience. Do pets have life reviews?
Cool.
Ooh, that's
I
a
like
great
that one.
question.
Yeah,
Who's
that's the
asking
first
that?
one and this is from Tessa Lace.
Cool. I like that. I think they do. I actually will. I'm going to ask the next
Yeah, I
time.
have to ask the dead people. I don't know that answer.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that. I'm not actually 100% sure, but I would imagine that they would. But I'll confirm.
Maitland says yes,
I was
yes,
gonna
yes,
say-
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes,
Yes.
Maitland.
Yes. Okay.
Maitland says yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. It makes sense because everything else is just like
She
the
goes,
same.
they have to.
Of course.
They have to
Okay.
know what they're up to. They have to.
Perfect.
Thanks, Maitland. Don't freeze the computers. Try us.
Well, Tom Thurber. Hello, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
I've seen Tom a couple times here on social media. He wants to know specifically why there's such a huge party at his place with critters.
Does he take care
I believe
of them?
Tom has a lot of cats.
Critters.
Yes. Like, why are some people literally magnets to
And you talked
animals,
about
including Jamie Butler
Jamie's
here.
kind of
Yeah.
like that. You
crazy.
talked
My
about
mother-in-law, like cats appear. They just appear everywhere.
I live in Atlanta, and I had a kitten appear in my front yard that had a tag in him that was from below Tampa, Florida. It had somehow gotten on a tour bus, the David Matthews Band, that played at Piedmont Park, and crawled out of the Piedmont Park bus and found its way to my house. And it was
That's
like
insane.
this big. And we found the parents south of Tampa, and they thought it was a spoof. She refused to return my calls. She got very angry with me because she told
Oh
the
my
children the cat
gosh.
was dead
Aw.
and that she wasn't going to take that cat back. Right. And I was like, after that comment, I don't think I'd give that cat
No.
back. So
my
no
goodness.
worries. We found that cat at home, named him Popcorn.
That's great.
How'd you trace him back to the Dave Matthews tour bus?
That was because that was the band playing that weekend. Because we couldn't figure out, would somebody steal the cat and then drop him off in Atlanta? But that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
They had played the show before, the night before in Tampa, and they had come to Music Midtown, and then all of that. So it was.
Wow.
I
I've
did
never
some
heard that story
research.
before, so-
Yeah,
I think that
they show up.
in some of these situations, like the person comes in sort of as a light beacon for animals, and it's almost like a lighthouse.
That's you, the light
and yeah,
beacon.
you're like one of those lighthouses, and they see this like it's like the safe haven.
Like
that-
Tom's house is glowing.
I was about to say, what about
Yeah.
Tom's land, where his house is? Are there?
Are there like a lot of creatures around, like wildlife creatures too, or just like cats that are coming in?
Are there? Have you noticed like land out there, or that animals tell you is more attractive, or feels like home, or that's safer?
Yeah,
Have they
absolutely.
conveyed
And then
things
some
like
people
that?
purposely make their land safer. Like we have a certified wildlife sanctuary in our backyard, so that makes it a safe spot. So you can actually make your land a safe spot to attract more wildlife and give them a safe haven, which is so needed now because with how much development we have, creating these wildlife sanctuaries creates kind of like a network, like a little highway for animals to safely traverse the population and all the urban landscape.
So just like there's vortexes that us people feel.
But those, yes, those are.
Could there be like vortexes
Yes.
that kitties really align with, or dogs really align with?
They sense that energy just like we do, so absolutely.
I'm picturing an underground network where they're talking. I'm like, yeah, she'll take you in. She'll
underground
She'll pretend like she doesn't want to, but she'll take you
Head
in.
over to his
Just
house.
hang in.
There's
for a
already
little
like
while.
20 there. It's pretty
it's
cool.
all right.
Yeah. That's how I picture my mother. My mother-in-law has 20 acres and a big
Oh,
old
wow.
colonial house that she lives in, and there's just cats. They just.
That's great.
I just picture
Yeah.
them like, yeah, she'll take us in. We're going over there. So Tom commented that he has 15 cats and several fosters.
Oh, awesome.
So definitely a beacon of light for the kitties.
Well, thank you for taking
Yeah.
care of the kitties.
Hey, Tom, do you ever take donations? Do you ever need anything for your 15 kitties and your fosters? Why not? You're sharing. I just thought I'd speak out and ask to
Yeah.
our community because sometimes, we have extra or know people who have extra. So let us know. See if we can help you out with that big heart.
Yeah, that's a really big heart, for sure.
It's kitty
Awesome.
heaven. I would just lay down like this and do kitty
So
snow
great.
angels.
Oh my gosh. I know.
So Joanne Thibbert asks, do animals have a higher self on the other side?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, they're exactly, it's hard to explain, but they're just like us, except they came in animal bodies. So they have like all the same things that we do, like the higher self and the, the soul, yeah, all the same stuff.
I heard in a session the other day, somebody was asking about why are dogs' lives shortened, and they really wanted their dog to live much longer because they're massively in love with each other. It was a big support in the family. And her son in spirit was like, think of it like this. Dogs are on a different dimensional plane. They can still exist in third dimension, like we do with bodies, but their perception of time is completely different. It's that when you leave the door, their sense of time is sped up. It's really fast. So imagine if they had the equal perception of time, they could live that 80 to 100-year lifespan, but they don't. It's much faster. So that when you leave and then you come back, that dog has had a world of experience because their time has moved so fast. But you've been gone for 5 minutes, and then you come back in the door, and the dog's like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you." You're like,
I've
just been gone for 5
I
minutes.
went to get the mail.
But the dog just had like 5 years of an experience, and the dog's like, "You came back for me. This is great."
That's
and I
really
thought that was
cool.
so entertaining.
Yeah, that's
Have
really
you
neat.
come across or heard of any like dogs or cats talking about perceiving? I mean, do they perceive time differently? Are they experiencing the same as us because we're in the same dimensional plane?
I think it depends. I have come across animals who, like I've talked to, that are, like I was saying a little bit earlier, but are close to transition, and they do kind of they'll leave their bodies and come back. So their time is very different when they're sort of not in their body in a way. I'm not sure about how it happens, exactly how it works when they're in their body. But
I would love if you ever
Yeah.
are talking to a lively one to
Yeah.
say, "Is time different for you?"
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes just went by. What did it feel like to you? I bet they couldn't even gauge 5 minutes, but it's an interesting concept.
It
Because
is.
time is a construct. We kind of just,
Like that we did.
Yeah.
We made that time. They didn't. What are they working on?
I have a question that it kind of ties into this, but it's making me think of it, from Greg Woodruff. He asks, have either of you, Jamie or Sigrira, encountered a situation in which a pet is an alternate incarnation of their owner or parent? Talk about an interesting
Ooh,
time thing.
That's way cool.
that's really neat.
I have not come across that yet. I have seen the same person in spirit that I'm seeing in front of me. And I've seen that twice, and that is freaky. And it's not an identical twin situation. It is, this person is in front of me, and energetically, spiritually, they are right behind themselves. And it's creepy.
Wow.
But I've never seen it in an animal before. I'm going to keep my eye out for
Yeah,
that.
I haven't
Can you
been
tell
told
me if
that.
that happens to me?
Oh, yes. You'll see me change colors. Like, what?
I was just reading a book by somebody who connects with animals, and I'm gonna have to give you the title later. But she met a butterfly. That was another aspect of her self.
So it happens. I know that you can incarnate at the same time. Why wouldn't you incarnate as an animal
And you
or tree?
can ask them how many incarnations they're having at the moment, and they would be able to tell you if you ask them that.
Oh, that's interesting.
There was a client this week who said, how many incarnations have I had? And I heard 294. And I was like,
Wow,
whoa. I was like, what is up with that? Well, that's a lot.
that's very specific. Yeah.
Right? And then I heard laughter, and I heard she's addicted to being a butterfly.
Oh, wow.
She's a butterfly. She's a butterfly. It dies. They have short lives. Butterfly, butterfly, butterfly. And the numbers just kept counting up and up and up and up.
That's so
And so
cool.
she goes, excuse me, what did you just say? Because I had mumbled it.
Yeah.
And I was like, something being addicted to being a butterfly. She's like, I have butterfly tattoos all over my back. She's like, there's something with butterflies.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, what?
That's really
Like,
cool.
I
I love that.
I was like, well, you
That's cool.
love connecting with them. I mean,
That's really neat.
but yeah, I digress. We're storytelling
That's
now.
a great story.
No,
I love that.
that's a great story. So we have about 4 minutes. So
Okay.
I am going to comment that Tom did post a link to All Heart County Humane Society Community Outreach Center.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we have that from Tom. And then we have a question from Natalie Passan Samoon. And I'm really apologize if I can't get your name correct there. Can a guide have animal companions?
Can a guide have animal companions? So, yeah, like on the other side, like did they have companions? They would be. They would. I don't know if they would be called companions. I think that they would be equals. Like, it would be more like friends or other. You know, what I mean, I think it would just be companion in a way. Do you think on the other side? Guides. When I do readings, I ask for the guides to come in from the animal and the person. And a lot of times when I see that, I sort of see them and they'll be all different, like species, all different interdimensional type beings. And so I guess they're together, like the companions. I guess we think of it as animal companions would be with the guides, but they wouldn't necessarily be like in the same type of relationship that we have here with them. It would be more of an equal type of thing.
The animal would actually be the guide
None
with
of-
the other guides.
They would maybe be a co-guide or something like that, rather than like be maybe like more in a child capacity or you know, kind of family member that's dependent on us.
I have a client whose son has crossed over and her dog just crossed over. And now when her son shows up to talk, the dog shows up as well. And so the son and the dog are always together. And he'll sometimes sit down and like put his feet up on the dog and scruff the dog.
I love
You know, and
that.
it's great, like they're together. They are together. But it's not that same role. Like like Sigrira was saying, it wasn't like, that's my pet. It's like they're equals, but they're maintaining that same visual for my client's purpose.
I think it's like the connection and the love is stay.
Oh,
I think that's a beautiful
still
example of how
there.
that stays. That does not end with death, and they're still, you know, they're still together.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think time's up, ladies. If
Don't
you wanna
like it when the time is up,
wrap it
guys.
up.
I'm definitely going to bring
This is so
Sigrira back. We're going to get her on some more podcasts, and then maybe we can do a Maitland channeling
Thank
with
you.
Sigrira.
I would love that. That'd
And
be so
we can
fun.
talk everything animals, cover some personal questions. I know Maitland really loved, what was it, Pet Week?
That was great.
We have Maitland scheduled for November. So, you know,
do.
just throwing it out there.
Just November, next month, stay tuned. There are a lot of other great things coming up for November, but I'm going to hold my tongue till I make sure they're real first. It's evil of me, isn't it? Lumineers, thank you so much for
Thank
being here.
you.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for showing up for us today. Thank you, Sigrira, for being here.
Thank
This
you
is
for
wonderful.
having me. This is great.
I love this. I love
I
learning
had so much
more.
fun. Thank you for your questions.
Yes, and take care. Remember, it's not woo-woo, it's true. It's facts. Bye, guys.